Sound.
Should be good to go.
Hello, is it working? Hello. Okay. I can hear you. Okay.
I did not know at the time that it actually is the reason why Heritage Woods started as an assisted living facility. And they are definitely tied into that yet. Their new name is Program Assist, but it did start out as a Stephenson Nursing Center. And they actually are what they call they're not actually a foundation, they're a 501c3 charity, just to make that clear. This is a list of the improvements that they have either paid for or helped with the purchase of at the nursing center from 2017 to 2020. Plus, at the bottom, it shows you the electric that they're actually supplying from the solar field. So it is an amazing amount of money, $1,653,000. And I guess my biggest point is this didn't happen on its own. There were people that got together that thought they really wanted to support the nursing center, and they put a lot of effort into it. And obviously it's paid off over the years. And I'm just asking you to really realize how much support there is in this community for that facility. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
My name is Lori Youngblood. This is into the discussion of the resolution of House Bill 5855, as it was performative and nonsensical. In regards to self-defense theory, it is the assumption that constituents are willing to shoot and kill others in defense. Not everyone is okay with taking a life, even in self-defense. Simplification to believe all people are morally willing to take another life shows a lack of any insight. 2, the justice system does not guarantee the claim of self-defense would hold up to a prosecution. It is just trope to believe people with guns can save from people with guns. The scare tactic use of which protected an idea of tyrannical government is ridiculous. We heard an idea of law enforcement going door to door to search homes for these firearms in compliance and registration. Look, it isn't done for anything, and there's many other reasons law enforcement could go door to door to do a search. They don't and won't. You're just creating stories to work up others into your emotional trip. The justification of this resolution was also stated by board members to be defiant against law enforcement and to go up against one of the largest militaries in the world. This is so senseless. We all saw that attempted on January 6, 2021. To those in this room that use God and Christian values in regards to resolution and being defiant in law is not in serving vulnerable people of your own community, your constituents. Not one breath was mentioned about the residents before the vote of the displacement of them when putting of Walnut Acres up for sale. We see you 10 board members. It is obvious during discussion of putting Walnut Acres up for sale, many board members are not fully informed about the history of the facility, as can be noted by their own comments. Honestly, do due diligence and research. The board members who stated we need more mental health care to keep citizens armed with guns were silent in regards to health care of the elderly population. Let me repeat, the board brought up the need for mental health care in regards to keeping guns available to all, but nothing to the residents of Walnut Acres. Anxiety was created by board members with made-up stories to theoretical situations of hypothetical government actions in regards to creating a resolution, but not one breath in the realistic, inhumane action of taking away someone's home and health care. To advocate for mental health in one area and not in another while also stripping away basic needs is cruel. You cannot pick and choose as to what deems a person worthy of health care. Seriously, I don't need a gun to make me or my family feel safe. I need access to health care resources. Take care of human life. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Shirley Koss. I wanted to add to what Ed was talking about. The foundation was stopped. So I know that a lot of the rhetoric right now is that possibly that building out there needs a lot of repair. In the past, this foundation was there to help with that repair. They stopped doing that because of the amount of times that this place was put up for sale. Now, we have spoken to them, and it is possible that a new relationship could be forged with them in the future. I think that's really important to keep in mind as we go forward.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the zoning board report. Ms. Henning?
Good evening. The monthly zoning board of appeals hearing was held Thursday. I don't think it's on.
There you go.
Okay. The monthly zoning board of appeals hearing was held Thursday, February 9th, 2023. A full quorum was present. The first hearing was for Casey and Brianna Schroeder. They are requesting a special use to allow for a single-family dwelling in the Ag District. Testimony was given, and with a vote of 3-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board without conditions.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Mr. Copeland, is there a second? By Mr. Whalen. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The final hearing for the evening was for Hassan Al-Ta'eh. He is requesting a special use to allow for a single-family dwelling in the Ag District. Testimony was given, and with a vote of 3-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board without conditions as well.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bush, is there a second? By Mr. Hart, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else, Ms. Henning?
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. We have no unfinished business, so I'll quickly move into the chairman's report. In the packet tonight, I did present a listing of meetings that I've attended since the last board meeting, in addition to what was listed. I also met with the Stephenson County Farm Bureau earlier this week regarding how the upcoming farm bill in the fall will actually impact Stephenson County farmers. Mr. Frick and I are going to be discussing that further. I also met with Highland Community College President Chris Kaburski regarding workforce development programs out at Highland and how we can enhance those. Also, I'm wrapping up meetings with the 9 taxing districts that comprise the Mill Race Crossing TIF district regarding the previous interfund loan that the previous board approved. That's gone pretty well so far, so I'm very pleased with that. Speaking of Mill Race, I do have an update on the project itself. The IEPA permit approval was submitted earlier this month. The project will be hopefully going out for bid at the end of this month in February. The bid opening is scheduled for the end of March. County approval of construction contract early April. County approval of construction engineering contract also early April. And depending on weather, construction hopefully beginning end of April, early May. Looking forward to that. I do have an update from Helios Healthcare. After we approved them last month, they sent out a prospect list that included 26 local and regional skilled nursing providers. Out of that 26, 5 immediately responded that they were not interested based on the current financial standing and census level of the facility. 11 have signed the NDA and are currently reviewing the opportunity with their teams, and 10 have not yet responded. The intent is to conclude the marketing process prior to the March 18th board meeting, I should say, and having conversations with the board at that time. Also included in your packet is the Health Department Annual Report for 2022 that is required to be distributed to this body. I'm also disappointed to announce that Craig Bentema has announced his retirement effective July 31st of this year. Craig is the longest standing department head, I believe, in Stephenson County. That's quite an accomplishment, and sorely miss your expertise. Search committee comprising of Health Department board members and myself are currently looking for Craig's successor. Unfortunately, also the Health Department board member Stephen Lafferty yesterday announced his resignation of the board, which will be effective April 1st. I will be putting together an interview team very shortly for that vacant seat. In the next few days, all 16 board members will be receiving a short questionnaire via email from me pertaining to the upcoming strategic planning sessions. So I would appreciate if you would please take some time, read through the questions, and give your honest perspective for that. That will help comprise, formulate, I should say, the outline of the strategic planning sessions that will be coming up. Finally, Stephenson County is a member of the United Counties Council of Illinois, otherwise known as UCCI. For those new board members that may not be familiar with that, they have monthly membership meetings in Springfield. Each county is allowed one representative to attend these meetings. It's typically the board chairman. However, Sam Newton has previously been designated as that representative, and we have decided to continue that appointment for now. He is also a member of the executive committee for UCCI, and that's a very good thing for Stephenson County. If any other board member would like to attend any of these membership meetings, I'm going to continue the same process that was in place prior to me becoming chairman. So please let my office know if you would like to attend in advance of the meetings. Right now, the county is reimbursed for Mr. Newton's travel expenses. Anything above that would have to come out of the county board budget. So please contact me if you wish to attend. Also, any communications with UCCI staff, or legal counsel must run through the chairman's office. This is not my rule. This is UCCI's rule, and apparently it's been in place for a number of years. I received an email from them just the other day stating that all other requests for opinions or information will no longer be accepted or answered by UCCI. Again, all questions need to run through either myself or Mr. Newton, and the responses will be sent back to myself or Mr. Newton. And again, I believe I remember Mr. Hadley stating that in the past. So again, that's nothing new. Anyone have any questions? Okay, we will move on to appointments. Madam Clerk, would you read the first appointment?
Approval of the appointment of Steve Frick to Stephenson County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Do I have a motion to approve? By Mr. Hart. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Mr. Diddens. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Move on to action items from standing committees. First up is planning and development. Approval of quitclaim deeds of landfill to the city of Freeport. Mr. Hart, are you able to present that?
I think so.
All right, let me get your phone.
The approval of the quitclaim passed out of our committee 4-1. And I believe that I asked for a motion to approve.
Or you can make a
our
motion.
discussion.
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
All right, is there a second? By Mr. Whalen. Before we begin discussion, I did ask the city manager, Mr. Bucas, to come today, and he is prepared to speak regarding this as well. So would you like to hear from him first before discussion, or begin discussion?
I'd like to hear from him first.
Randy, would you mind coming up?
Low seat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for coming.
I guess just to give a little bit of background, back in 2017, the city was approached by Terra Navigator to place solar panels on the former landfill. And the city entered into an agreement with them in December of 2017. Terra Navigator since has sold their rights or options to place those solar panels to Amorisco. Our agreement with Amorisco is for 25 years with a 10-year extension. Amorisco finally received their tax credits from the state, and that's what's been holding everything up these past 5 years. And now they want to proceed. And during the process, we found that there was a reverter clause in the deed that the county gave to the city for the landfill that basically said that the clause that the property was no longer used as a landfill, the property would revert to the county. Amorisco's financiers, bank financiers of the project, wanted some kind of clear title that would allow the solar panels to be placed on there. And so originally, when we talked to county officials, we were talking about some kind of clause that would basically say that you recognize that the solar panels are not part of the landfill, but you're not going to exercise your reverberation of the property. And since that time, I believe our city attorney and the state's attorney met and thought that the best way of doing this to make a road claim was just do a quick claim deed. And that's what we're asking for tonight.
Any questions?
I have some questions.
How much land is this?
Good question.
It's 44 acres.
Yeah, 44.
44 total. How many landfills are on that property?
How many landfills around the property?
Yes.
There's just the one that I'm aware of. That's the one that we currently own or currently maintain.
Is there something called 2 and 3 and numbers 4 for
Yes.
Port Municipal Dump?
Yes.
So there's 3 titles for this one landfill?
There's 2. I believe the property that was going to be used landfill for was already owned by the city.
Okay, because the EPA indicates that there's 2 landfills on that property. I don't know if 44 acres is the total or not, but I'm just curious, when I looked at the deeds, the only thing that the deeds, I think the problem would have been the only thing that the deeds allowed was landfill. In other words, it didn't give the city any other rights to any other sort of use other than landfill. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
Has there ever been anything on that landfill that the city has owned?
As far as I know, it's just been a landfill.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
before you ask any other questions, we normally do 2 and then move on to other board members and come back. Is there any other board members that would have any questions?
I do.
Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Mr. Lucas, is there any fees associated with doing this landfill? I mean, do you pay out, or does anyone pay any money annually to keep this landfill?
I just signed a contract last week for $236,000 firm grant to continue monitoring our wells and everything else at the landfill. The year before, we paid out $255,000 because we had to do some additional work. And I think the year before that, our bill was about $250,000.
And that monitoring has to continue no matter who owns the property?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I go back to Mr. Hart? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Anthony.
As far as the deed is written right now, the land would continue to maintain with the city until the land no longer was specified as a landfill. And then it would revert back to the county at that point. Am I reading that correctly?
I believe the wording was that if we ever stopped using it as a landfill, that it would revert, it could revert back to the county, yes.
That's all my questions right now.
Okay. Anyone? Mr. Newton.
quick question. Does the EPA have any say in whether we can immediately use it for other uses, or was there any stipulations on when we can convert this to anything else? I know landfills traditionally get used for a lot of things after their life's end cycle, but is there anything that the state has to say about these solar panels going in, or any other project? Do we have any other hurdle? Because as it is now, the county does own the land, but is there a hurdle? I don't know, I'm asking questions.
The only thing that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I
Go
think
ahead.
that was a question to me. The EPA does not allow any type of puncture into the cover of the landfill. So in that respect, as long as you're not puncturing the cap, you could probably do almost anything you want to. But there again, you have to watch out for erosion problems that, where if you put on that landfill, it doesn't create erosion, because you have to go in and make sure that the cap is always covered. You have to make sure that the grass is always kept at a certain height so that it pulls back any soil erosion in that. So I'm not quite sure if I answered your question there, because I'm not quite sure I understood it, but I believe I answered it.
Just one other follow-up. I did hear you say that there's a cap. So, I know putting down solar panels causing to drive something in the ground. I don't know how far you have to go to secure solar panels. It's not like putting up windmills, but you have to go down a certain amount of feet to keep those panels in place, those brackets. I don't know if that is something that has been explored, and even if it has, I did not hear the scope of the project. How many acres is going to be used in this project for this particular project that you're proposing?
To go back to your first question or statement, they are not going to be putting any holes into the landfill. They're going to be placing concrete slabs and placing the solar panels on concrete slabs.
And how big is the project that we're talking about?
We haven't seen the final design yet, but I'm sure they're going to try to utilize as much space as they can.
Thank you.
Mr. Hart, would you like to continue?
I would, thank you. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. That is that, number one, the cost was mentioned in maintaining this. Those costs are all the city of Freeport's costs until this landfill is no longer considered a landfill. The EPA has been monitoring, continues to monitor, and this is an operational landfill, even though you're not putting any more water. When they were closed, I asked Mr. Bucas, when there's two of them, do you know what year they were closed, Mr. Bucas?
I believe they were both closed at the same time. They would have been 97 or 87.
According to the EPA, they were actually finally closed in 2003. I don't know if that's accurate because, again, we're talking about two landfills, not one. It's just why it has all these confusing names associated with it, number one, number two, number four, and so forth. I don't know, and they didn't know in my initial research as well. But I just wanted to make it clear to everybody here, that's not our legal, none of this is our legal responsibility to maintain this until the EPA certifies that this is no longer a landfill, period. When they certify that this is clean and that it's regular, it's reverted back to regular ground that can be built on and utilized in any way at all, which is at least 30 years after it's capped at the very minimum, and usually much longer, that all of these liabilities and expenses belong to the city of Freeport. They do not come back to Stephenson County under the reverter clause. So this is not going to revert back to us until it's blessed by the EPA. Because the owner-operator of this is the city of Freeport. So there are no associated costs. What we'd basically be doing is giving up 44 acres of land that's gonna come back to us as good land that's certified as clean, usable land. Nothing is reverting back to us. So there, I just don't see any reason to do this. I don't see any reason that why we would give away 44 acres that we could be putting solar on at some point, or building whatever we want to build on. I just don't understand what the incentive is for the county to give 44 acres to the city. So that's my point. Also, I would like to, I asked if anything had ever been built on this or done with this. The EPA did send me the application for a permit for a solar project that was approved back in January of 2019. So apparently this has come up before.
Can you please speak in your microphone? I'm getting notification that people on Zoom
Oh,
or not
I'm
Zoom,
sorry.
YouTube are not able to hear, so please speak into your microphones as close as you can.
Okay. There is a copy of an application the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency sent me. Apparently the city of Freeport did apply for an application. They would be the permit holder. And this was approved. Once these are approved, they're only valid for 2 years. So since construction didn't start for 2 years, this one has expired. But apparently this has already been in place and in planning for years. And in fact, they had an approval for a permit. And I don't think that we were ever aware of that as Stephenson County. I'm surprised that they went ahead and did it, because the only thing that they were allowed to do under the deed was operate a landfill. Can I give you a copy? Mr. Chairman, can I give you a copy?
Sure. Do you have any more direct questions from Mr. Bucas?
Just, I would ask that, does he realize that this is a city responsibility and remains a city responsibility until the EPA no longer considers it a landfill?
Well, yeah, we're aware of that.
Okay.
You're not telling me anything new. We've been working on this since 2017. As I stated in my opening comments, those of us that are here now weren't aware that there was a reverter clause until Amoresco got really serious about trying to do something over there. They wanted to try to get their financing. And then through the title work is when we found out there was a reverter clause, and we've been trying to work with the county to get that cleaned up one way or another.
Ms. Hayes?
Mr. Bucas, is it possible that the city council could take a vote and decide just to give the land back to us with all of its financial responsibilities? Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, but I don't think they're gonna do that, but yeah, it could happen, yes.
Anything else, Ms. Hayes?
No.
Okay. Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, I was just, hello?
There we go.
Hello? So if I understand this correctly, by doing the solar field, that's gonna help the city recoup some of the costs involved in maintaining this forever and a day? Would that be a true statement?
Well, I think based on our agreement, we're looking at maybe $16,500 a year in fees from the solar company once it's fully operational. So yes, that $16,000 would be used to maintain the landfill.
Thank you.
Ms. Anthony?
Mr. Bucas, do you know how much money the landfill brought in for revenue for the city over the years?
I have no idea.
From my understanding, it was a pretty substantial amount and was used for projects like building projects and things of that nature. Are you aware of any of that?
Nope, I wasn't here at the time.
Can we get an opinion? I know it's off the cuff here, Mr. Larson, but on Ms. Hayes' question on whether the city would be allowed to vote, make that vote to return it?
Well,
The deed says that the property would revert back to the county if it's ever not used as a landfill anymore. Now, that's been a little bit conflated to whether or not the EPA considers it a landfill. Whether the EPA considers it a landfill versus an alternate use, I think that's where there's some grounds for confusion. And arguably, you say, well, if they're using it as a solar field and a landfill, it's not just a landfill and it could revert back to the county. And I think it's probably incumbent on us to take very seriously whether or not we would incur liability should that happen. Whether, I don't think it would be a matter of the city council directly voting, we want to give this to the county, but if they voted, hey, it's going to be a petting zoo starting next Saturday, then we're in a position where we have to figure out, is this reverter in effect and what obligations are falling to us as a result of that.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Yes.
From my understanding, in the committee meeting, there was a suggestion or a motion to lay over that didn't get a second, so it didn't go anywhere. And a lot of these issues and questions were raised. I'm in the mindset that, we do need to take things into careful consideration and looking at everything as far as what potential liability could be. Could it revert back to us prior to that? All of those things, I think, need to be taken into consideration before any vote is taken, because it is Stephenson County land. And we've given land away before for $1. And so is there something that the county could utilize? Could we put a solar farm on there and then receive revenue for it once it reverts back to us? I think those are all things that need to be considered before we just make a decision. Just having the information for just a couple weeks' time.
And I don't think you meant it this way, but I've heard this twice, that this is Stephenson County land. This land is owned by the city of Freeport. There's simply a reverter clause in place. It is not Stephenson County land. It was sold in 1971 and 1974. I'm assuming you mean the reverter clause, which is why it would technically come back, or it could. Mr. Whalen, did you want to speak again?
Is the city of Freeport within Stephenson County?
Did you press your button? I have it lit here, but I don't.
Mr. Chairman, is the city of Freeport within Stephenson County?
It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Jokers?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to vote to approve this because the risk for liability, the fact that I don't think it's very useful for very many projects, especially I want to call it an old dump. I mean, who would want to build on it? You can't build certain things on there. It's not very useful for very much. And I think you need to get out from underneath this thing. So I'm going to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Mr. Newton?
A question, Chairman. At one time, the health department had some oversight as to maintaining the property there. And before they had it, our highway engineer took care of everything. I'm just curious, have we spoken to the health department at all about what their role has been or is or isn't anymore as it relates to this landfill?
I have spoken to Mr. Bentema regarding the landfill, but not about their role. Do you want to hear from Mr. Bentema on that?
I would just like to, yeah, I wouldn't mind if you don't
Mr.
mind.
Bentema, would you be willing to come up?
Boy, he just doesn't care anymore. Yes. If you want to talk, just push your button. It's okay. It's fun to come up now. So the question is? Nothing to lose now. That's right.
Mr. Newton, did you want to repeat your question?
The role that the health department played in this landfill, can you share with us what your responsibilities were in the past as it relates to the landfill? I know there was at one time some management that was in your purview?
As long as I've been here, there really hasn't been any interaction on it for that landfill.
Okay.
And I look back in time for my predecessor, and all I saw was like maybe a letter talking about it, but that's back in 75 or 78. There really wasn't a lot of what I would have any role in it. It's because it's really under an IEPA jurisdiction of permitting what can be on it and the management of it. So I really don't have.
Thank you. I was looking for whatever information you had to share with I have no idea. I just knew at some point there was some information that the health department and the highway engineer worked on, this project. So I thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe so. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, seeing that there's no one else wishing to speak, I think we'll take a roll call on this. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll? And this is to approve the quitclaim.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Modero,
Yes.
Larry Jogers,
Yes.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester,
Yes.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Mark Diddens,
Aye.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
Yes.
Samuel Newton,
I'm gonna say no. Thank you.
Luann Hayes,
Yes.
Casey Anthony,
No.
William Hadley,
No.
A, 4 nay.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I believe you have another action item.
Let me get back to that again. Bear with me. The second action item was the approval of the payment of the invoice from Black Hawk Hills Regional Council. And I will make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Now, Mr. Hadley, is there any discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Hart, do you have any other information out of your committee?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to Mr. Whalen and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a couple items out of finance. We have approval of an agreement with Empower Health Services. This is an agreement for biometric screening for the employees of the county. Apparently, this has been in place now. It's just kind of a renewal of the agreement that was previous. It's been a very good program, well received, and I would move to approve this agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Jogers, is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Whalen, you can continue if you would.
Mr. Chairman, we also had an agreement with for licensing software through Sigich, the group that does our auditing for the county, which would make it a lot easier for our financial folks within the county to do their job in terms of working with the audit company. This passed out of committee unanimously, and that is so moved to approve of the move for approval of the master software license agreement with Sigich.
Okay, thank you. Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
By Mr. Diddens, any discussion on this item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other information on your committee, Mr. Whalen?
No, sir, that is it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Copeland, Public Property and Safety, have no action items. Any information?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Stovall did his report to the committee. He advised that there's 2 recruits in the Police Training Institute right now. And there's 1 that's in the hiring process. That would be fully staffed with those 3, which would be the first time in several years that the Sheriff's Department has been fully staffed in the law enforcement area. There currently are 6 correctional officer positions open at the jail. Sheriff Stovall spoke on the HVAC system for the public safety, the courthouse, and the jail. He's reached out to Linda Watson. She's the Director of Government Partnerships. She's going to help with the RFPs to look for an engineering firm who will then write an RFP for the actual project itself. On the EMA side, Scott Townsend told the committee that he's hired an assistant, Robin Gorsline, as assistant director. He is a retired firefighter and will do a great job at it. And also, Mr. Townsend stated that the 5-year Stephenson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan was approved by FEMA on January 16th. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to the Administration Committee. Mr. Jokers, do you have an action item?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we have one item here. This is approval to amend County Code Chapter 29-17 and Chapter 77-3. I'll make a motion to approve so we can discuss.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. By Mr. Modero. Go ahead, Mr. Jokers.
Thank you. Basically, this was, I was asked to look at this along with several others to amend this code. This is where the chairperson would appoint one of the board members. Court Services Committee would automatically go to the Stevens County Board of Health. I was asked to look at that in regards to the past appointments were just made by the chairman. What this code change does, it removes that obligation of the Court Service Committee chairperson to automatically go to the health department, and it would make all these appointments the same for all these 11 people would go through the chairman and then be approved by the board. And it gets all the code in the same spot, so we don't overlook that in the future. So that's what this is about.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any other information on your committee?
Just 2 quick items. The interphone loan policy is ready for review by the state's attorney, and then we'll bring that back to the full board here, get that approved. And then on January 30th, I'd sat in on a meeting for the IT policy, and we are good with the insurance, liability, and all that. However, the people that I talked to, we're going to need to break that policy up once we get an IT manager. And then, once we break that up, then we can send that to the certain people, that either the users or the IT people, and not have one great big policy out there. And we'll be working on that when we get an IT manager. So.
Okay. I was going to ask you, do we have any update on the IT manager? Is that something you'd like to speak to, or the administrator? Go ahead.
Yes, I am happy to announce we have a new IT manager starting on March 6th. Familiar face for many of you, Mr. Nate Louie will be our new IT manager.
Thank you. Mrs. DeMeester?
Yeah, I was wondering if it's possible that we can attach documents with the agenda so the public can read and see what we're seeing.
Yeah, actually, they were emailed out twice when the agenda was initially sent out on.
To everybody?
All board members, yes.
By me, outside of the public.
I believe if anyone wants to see that, the entire packet, they can contact the clerk, and I'm sure she'd be willing to send that out.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Jokers?
That's all, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to court services. Mr. Bush, you have an action item.
Yes, approval of technology agreement with the circuit clerk is more of a friendly, she changed and going from PayPal to, not PayPal, PayPal to court money. And this is more or less for cash bill, fines, radio, fees. this way they could be able to use a credit card or debit card or what have you. So I so move.
All right, is there a second? Second by Mr. Whalen. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Bush, anything else out of your committee?
We have released a press release on the youth diversion funds, which a program that is trying to deter youth from getting into the court system. The deadline is at April 1st, so that we did release that to people invited to apply for that.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Move on to Nursing Center, Mrs. Baker.
All right, first item left for approval is the rendition contract. This was reviewed by Mr. Larson and passed out of committee. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? By Mr. Whalen, is there discussion on this item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
We'll move on to your next item.
Next up, we have approval of payment for the civil money penalty from the Illinois Department of Central Management Services. Some of you can recall the previous administrator left the COVID unit and did not dispose of PPE properly. We were assessed with the civil money penalty totaling $15,000. We were offered a 35% reduction if paid before February 28th. Was passed out of committee and was to pay the $9,750, reflecting of the reduction. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second. So Mr. Jogers, is there any discussion on this? Did you want to speak, Mr. Newton?
No, that's okay. I'll talk about it. Never mind.
Good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Go ahead and continue, please.
Next up, we have approval of bad debt write-off, which comes to the total of $110,860.66. The write-off is all private pay and dates back from 2017 to June of 2022. TCM has informed that this is uncollectible. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Copleen, is there any discussion on this? Ms. Hayes?
Does the county hire a collection agency to go after the bad debt?
The easy answer is no.
And my next question is, why not?
Well, I think TCM can probably address this more, but I believe most of what we are writing off now is not collectible. Some of it has been double billed, in essence, that it's been paid already. I'm not suggesting that all of it is that, but debt after a certain amount of time does need to be written off. I can't speak for nursing home debt, I can speak for banking debt, that you have 10 years to collect after any activity. I don't know if that is also the case with this. If you want further clarification, I'm sure Mr. Filippo would be glad to provide more detail.
Thank you.
Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, I was just gonna address that.
I was just gonna address that, Mr. Chairman. It's basically a coding issue. When they were receiving patients, they were coded improperly, and so they were coded as private pay so that when Medicaid kicked in, it didn't go back and cover some of those expenses. That's the main gist of it, so there's really not much you can do with that. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One nay. All right, thank you. I believe you have one final action item.
Last item on the agenda, I would like the board to consider the approval of the remaining claims. The committee approved only claims listed in the consent agenda. As previously done, I would like to make a motion to approve claims pending that the total amount is $453,372.36. With that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
By Mr. Haley. Could I get clarification on your motion again? I think you said pending, but I'm not sure you finished.
Yes, so I would like to make a motion to approve claims pending funding when, as revenue, comes in, basically, yeah, kind of like we've done in the past.
Okay. Mr. Hadley, is that correct for your second?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, when the committee discussed this, we kind of perused it on about every side we could, and the treasurer was recommending that we hold off because we have so much back debt that we owe on, and so to move forward with new claims, in the committee's opinion, at least in the majority, didn't make a lot of sense. And so we kind of left these as pending for now until we get some of the stuff that we've got sitting out there, which I think is a total of around $700,000 to get caught up with, if I remember right. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Bush?
Yes, I think Mr. Hadley asked the question in committee. Did we ever get a decision back from UCII on this issue of paying bills, paying the nursing home bills?
Yes, actually, I believe that the administrator had requested that several months ago. It was just emailed back out to myself, the administrator, and I believe Ms. Anthony just a few days ago. The easy answer is anytime Stephenson County incurs debt, we're liable for that debt. It's not specific to the nursing home per se. So if there's a vendor that has a contract with the county, which whether it's the nursing center, the sheriff, or anything, it's Stephenson County. So yes, the county is required to pay its debt. Does that answer your question? Otherwise, I think the administrator could probably pull up the email from UCCI and read that if you'd like. Or I could probably pull it up.
So with that then we should be paying this $452,000 then.
I believe that's what the motion is on the floor, and that funding.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Bush?
No.
Okay, Ms. Anthony?
I have nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Jogers?
Thank you, Chairman. I think for the public, it would be great if we could get an update on where the finances are, how much we got in the bank, how much we have in all these outstanding bills. I think that would really help the public understand. I just did want to make a comment about the last meeting. Appreciate Mr. Remmers coming up with this list of items that have been fixed or need to be fixed at the nursing home. That was excellent information. Thank Mr. Benzema and the county administrator for coming up with what would it take to close it. And that type of stuff. At least we know what the plans are, but I think it would really help people understand what the current financial state is as of today, if that's applicable.
I guess, I don't know, is Mr. Wall on? Okay, the treasurer is here, would you like to hear from her?
Yes, please, if she's willing.
Please.
Thank you. So, it's kind of a moving target right now, Ms. Norman was with me just this evening or early afternoon. We discussed some of the things that we had hoped we were going to pay. Now we're going to be paying different things. So, at the meeting, there was a total of, it was over $700,000. Everything all in. At this current time, because there were some deposits realized this week, we were able to pay off November entirely, and that was more than $110,000. So huge. November's gone, done, wrapped up, yes. So there actually is still an outstanding amount of $372.63. That was before a couple of claims presented themselves today, and I don't know if I'm the appropriate person to speak to that. It's from Nurse Right, the staffing agency, and they're in excess of $86,000, which more or less need to be paid immediately, or we will not be able to staff the nursing home this weekend. That is in addition to the $453.
What's the balance in the bank?
So we do have the money to pay that. So we are in touch daily with TCM and SNC staff. So I give them the amount that they have in the bank. We list any outstanding charges that we're aware of, outstanding checks, we have that set aside for the water heater, so we kind of subtract that out and give them an accessible cash amount each day. So tomorrow, given the deposits that Ms. Norma brought today, which were $89,000, but I'd have to send out another 96, given the fine that you just approved, and if I believe we need to pay these emergency bills. So all that paid, I think it leaves 59,000 and change tomorrow. If there were no additional deposits, we do have at least $79 in employee meal money that I have yet to deposit. I don't think that's significant to this discussion. So the December outstanding claims are a little over 56,000. So if we had no other obligations to meet, we could still pay these emergency nurse right bills. We can pay the fine, and we could pay December. Have that done over close the book on 22 and still about $3,000. That makes me nervous. Although I'm confident that money has been starting to come in, but for us, it is a cash flow issue and timing, because the last payroll was a little higher than we thought it was going to be. So we're looking at around 90,000 for payroll. And the way that we run our payroll into a clearing account, we kind of have to have those payroll dollars about 5 days before payroll actually hits. I can push it to 4. So we're already looking ahead to needing another $90,000 in a week's time. So we kind of have to keep that in the background, because we have to pay our people before we do anything else. So, but we also have to pay the fine before we do anything else. And then so we have the concern now too of the staffing issue. So I don't know if that's answering.
It helps a lot. I think
Okay.
we kind of run the neck and neck the way I'm hearing it. So.
And the 453,000 is over 5 different sets of claims that were supposed to be paid in February. This does not address that $700,000 figure is what would have picked up in previous months, December and January. Add that. The 453 is just for the bills presented this last cycle. So and there's one vacant on the block, and it was the Fresh Ideas liability. So if you had taken that out, that's about more than half. I'm not sure if I...
Anything else, Mr. Jogers?
No, thank you.
Mr. Diddens?
Nothing for you. Well, you know what, it could be.
Okay.
So my question is, if we were to vote not to approve these claims totaling $453,000, are there any specific claims that we should consider pulling out and approving individually, like for feeding our residents or anything that's really urgent?
So we do have a process for manual claims, whenever there are bills that need to be paid right away. We do that all the time. We pay bills with department head signature, with committee chair signature, with board chair signature. So there is a process for emergencies. But when the figures are this high, we really don't. I mean, that's sort of unprecedented. And to me, that would signal probably another board meeting. I'm not sure. By the time we get around to having this amount of money, we probably may already be to the next board meeting, the next committee cycle. So my concern when I brought that to the committee was the blanket approval of let's pay it when we have the money. I'm a little trouble with that, because that's not what we're doing. Because when you do that, I think the logical assumption is that you're paying the oldest bills first and coming forward. I mean, that's kind of what I assumed everybody thought. That's not what we're doing. And case in point is the nurse right bills. Like, we didn't even have these bills yet, and now we have to pay them. And now we're jumping ahead of all these other bills we've already approved months ago. So I guess obviously it's committee, board decision, whatever you prefer to do. I just kind of want to slow that process down a little bit and examine this a little more, because this is new and different. We've never done this before. So I think originally, when we first did the first month that let's pay these when we have the money, it was meant to be a stopgap. It was not intended to be a longer-term solution. So that's kind of where we're getting caught up with. I literally have stacks by month in my office of claims to manage, and we're going to pull some from this month and pull some from this month, depending on vendors who are threatening discontinuation of service. So we're really not doing what you approved. We're not approving pending funding, we're approving by the seat of our pants. We're paying by the seat of our pants because we have no choice. So I think it's just more of a critical look at how and what we're paying and when, because we've never done it this way before. I don't want to see this become a permanent solution. So that's
So just as a quick follow-up, it sounds like there's no single claim that you would want us to pluck out of this batch to approve tonight.
I don't know that I'm the best person to say that. I think that probably
Or mistake,
TCM.
or, if you know of any, if you might have expected that these would have been not approved, are there any specific claims that you would like to pluck out of this batch and urge us to approve?
I don't.
None that you know of?
Yeah, I would have to reference back to TCM.
So you guys didn't plan for that option for us to not approve? And I mean, or if you did, there's no specific claims.
I actually would. I would suggest some, and I don't know, in concert with TCM, I think they would probably agree, is the staffing agencies, there are two. Grapetree is the CNA staffing agency, is that right? Exclusively CNA? Not exclusive, okay, so it's Grapetree and Nurse Right. And Nurse Right are the two emergency claims that we're looking at tonight. And then I believe your therapy providers are probably who you would have rise to. So that's really not my call. I just, those are the ones that if you asked me, I probably would pick those because of the direct service. But I am not.
That's all I'm trying to do is create an opportunity to pull out some
Right.
really important claims if we're about to not approve this.
Anything else, Mr. Diddens?
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Whalen?
If I heard right, those two claims are in addition to this 453,
Correct.
is that correct?
They are.
Yes.
Those are outside this 453,000.
So I just want to clarify that. And then secondly, one of the other things that we discussed at committee was the fact that this precarious financial position is causing issues in other areas too. When Mr. Garbers goes to pick up something from Menards, they're having him pay cash because they're not accepting our credit at this point because it's making some of our vendors nervous. So that's a concerning thing. It's in addition to this. I mean, this is a situation that's been going on before I ever got here. And, well, I shouldn't say that because it was going on back in about 2004, 5, and 6, too, if I remember right. So it's just very concerning, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Copley?
Yes, I have a question. We don't approve the claims. Where do they go? They sit in the file somewhere the next
They're all on I have a credenza that is nothing but nursing home materials right now. And so I have the stacks that you have approved previously, pending funding, and been trying to take those in order as funds become available. So we're just kind of adding more to that assembly line, I guess, if you want to call it claims processing assembly line.
I guess I'd like a point of clarification on the claims. If we're approving these, or if we have in the past approved them as funding becomes available, two questions come up. One, is it that we're paying in order of when they were approved, going backwards to the most recent, or is it giving authority to pick and choose what's paid? But when we come back and let's use the nurse right, the two claims that were just presented today that have not gone through, and apparently it's been deemed an emergency. Am I clear that these two nurse right claims have never been presented to the oversight committee or the board?
That is correct.
Okay, so there's one for November 20th and one for December 22nd. The one from November 20th is $48,400.03. One from December 22nd, is $38,416.28. So even though these bills have never gone through the oversight committee or been approved by the board, the process is it's deemed an emergency so that the department head and either the oversight committee chair or myself can manually approve this $86,816.31 expenditure without ever going through committee. Correct?
And I don't know, I might have to defer to Mr. Larson on this. I don't know that that's correct, given the amount that we're talking about. I think it exceeds what county code specifies, which is why I thought we needed to talk about it right away, because it needs to be paid right away. But code has some very specific dollar amounts in it. So, for example, a manual check that a department head presents cannot exceed $2,000. And there are other limitations, I believe, at the $5,000 and $10,000 level, which specify different levels of oversight. We don't have any discussion about an emergency bill of this level. I mean, I believe
obviously we need to pay it. But our code doesn't have a specific mechanism for doing so. So that's why I keep saying emergency, because I'm looking for a way to do it.
Well, and I guess to my point, if we're approving claims as funding is available, I think if I understood correctly, the department head and the oversight chair could deem which needs to be paid first in that regard. That would be my interpretation. But the dollar amount is what's concerning to me, because again, it's $86,000, just shy of 87, as there's no oversight. Now, this was, I assume, all approved within the budget. We're not over budget in those lines for staffing. So I guess I would defer to the state's attorney if you have any clarification on that, on how this.
Well, the approval of expenditures is in the county.
Microphone, please.
Thank you. The approval of expenditures is set forth in our county code in section 8-4, and there is no emergency provision for, well, really for more than $5,000. So, you know, in those amounts, I do think that they need to be approved by the county board.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the actual motion on the floor for the $453,372.63. I'll move on to Ms. Anthony.
Thank you. I would request that UCCI opinion do get emailed out to everybody on the board, please. Just a little bit of history on that. This was requested through committee back in August, actually, and was sent by Ms. Newcomer at the direction of the former chairman, Mr. Hadley. And so we did just get it back. So I just want to remind everybody, I was in the initial email, so I was in the response back. That's how it came to me. We are obligated to pay bills. So pending funding, you know, that's the mechanism we have been using. But to say no, to vote no to this, we have an opinion saying that we are obligated, just as Chairman Helms reported, to pay the bills. In the past, I know, I'm not sure if this is still happening, but I know that a priority list has been provided to the treasurer to allow for, and that's been developed by the administrator with the support of TCM. So it is that priority list, and it used to be presented to us here on the board floor as far as what bills would be prioritized to be paid. And so it wasn't necessarily in the order that they were received, but that we went by that priority list. So I would suggest that we go back to that so that we can see, you know, what it is when we're approving pending funding, where that priority list lies. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say that I don't believe that priority list has changed or necessarily been stopped by anyone on the county side. I think it's more of an issue of vendors saying, listen, we need to get paid now, and that supersedes potentially what was on that priority list. And if I'm understanding correctly from emails earlier today, as an example, these two nurse rate invoices from November and December, the gist of it was that if they're not paid tomorrow, there will be no staffing on the weekend. So.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
Please. I know that my P's are really hard, I guess. I know in the past, particularly in the jail, through this, we've had emergency things come up that have been well beyond that $5,000 or $10,000 amount that we approved. So what mechanism did we use to approve those emergencies?
Well, go ahead, Mr. Larson.
Obviously, you would have to tell me the specific circumstance you're referring to, but in the past, my recollection of jail kind of emergencies wasn't to avoid approval by the county board, but to avoid the RFP process. So in the event of an emergency and an expenditure that's going to exceed $20,000, you can avoid the RFP process if you get two quotes from reputable bidders of the type of material that you're attempting to buy. I don't recall them spending in excess of $20,000 without county board approval, but if you bring a specific circumstance to my attention, I'd be happy to look at it, and the answer might be that that wasn't done correctly. But what is much more vivid in my mind is their circumstances where it's like, well, there's something to do with their like water heater or something went out, and they didn't have time to do the RFP, but it still came to the board for approval of the claim. Is that what you're thinking of, or are you thinking of a different circumstance?
To be honest, I just remember over the years that there were, several emergency situations. One of them I do kind of remember being the water heater.
Yeah.
But I know that there was just discussion had, and maybe Chairman Hadley with history could provide a little bit more, but that, there had to be emergencies declared to pay for them.
Yeah, well, and to avoid the RFP process, because otherwise you gotta go out for bids, you can't not bid.
Anything else, Ms. Anthony?
No, thank you.
And I do just want to remind the board that we are not asked to take any action on the nurse right bills. That was just an example that was brought up. We are only considering through the motion the February claims of $453,372.63. Mr. Hart.
My first question is, the UCCI opinion was that all of our bills are an enterprise basis. In other words, none of our bills are segregated in any manner that we're segregating them, apparently, other than restricted funds and unrestricted funds. But in terms of invoices being paid, it would seem as if when the county gets an invoice, it should go into a category and an aging, and it would make sense to be paying according to age, not according to bifurcating it or segregating it by whatever units we go by. That's how I read it. UCCI is saying you're responsible for all your invoices. It's no different than a corporation, I think, if I'm reading that right, with different divisions. When that corporation gets an invoice, they're responsible to pay it. It goes, that's how I think that's what this says, quite simply. The other thing I'm curious about is how we have bills that weren't approved, that didn't come through a committee until right now. I mean, we've got bills that are apparently invoices that are 60 days old and we're just finding out about it. That's a problem. How did that happen?
I don't know that anyone has an answer for that. Denise Norman is here. When this email came out this afternoon, the gist of it again, and I'm paraphrasing, is we need to have a check by tomorrow or we won't have staffing for the weekend. My initial response was, is there something in writing on this? Or I apologize, my initial response was, when did we find out about this? And she replied, I think around 2 o'clock this afternoon. I'd asked if there was a written notice. There was not. This is all verbal. This is the owner of the company calling saying, look, I want my money, and if not, I'm not sending anybody for the weekend.
And we have a contract with that entity, so I assume that there must be something governing this. But this is
point of order, isn't this a different topic? Please.
We are off the existing claims, correct? This is not.
I think we're going to circle back and talk about these next.
Okay.
Did you have
I think we went off this original topic when we asked the treasurer to come up and speak to, overall financial situation.
Well,
but that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just concerned that this is a problem, obviously, and it's one that seems like it could be remedied. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dibbs, did you have anything else?
I did, yeah. Just before I would vote on this, I'd like clarification on if we did approve these claims for $453,372, who who would get to decide the priority? Would it be the treasurer or would it be the chairperson of the oversight committee?
I believe the way the practice has been going, TCM has been working in tandem with the treasurer to, as she said, pull different claims out based on necessity. So it really depends on what the intent is with the motion. Okay. Is the motion to pay in sequential order as funding is approved, meaning every month we have done this for the last 6 months, or is it giving the authority for TCM and the treasurer to decide which claims from which batch from which month get paid first?
And how is the motion stated?
I believe to pay as funds are made available. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So it doesn't clarify that. Right?
Anything else, Mr. Davis?
No, that's all I have for now, thank you.
Mr. Meester?
I guess I don't know how we can approve the claims when there's no one.
Is that a question for me?
No.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's a statement.
All right. Anything else? Mr. Newton?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Is the microphone button actually pushed?
It is.
It's the microphone itself.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My thought was here, I know that on the question of paying them, I don't know if we consider tax anticipation loan, but going forward, because obviously, based on the opinion, we never had this issue in the past because we would pay bills up front and make those departments take care of their obligations as we came to the end of the year. Obviously, this is a much more challenging issue anything we've done before, but my suggestion is that we would consider it, maybe get back to ground zero and, at least get those bills paid and then work with our management team to make sure that things are getting paid as we go forward. Because again, we keep saying that a lot of this is problems from the past. But that's my thought, Mr. Chairman. The other thing is that you can borrow money. The treasurer can do that in different areas, and really, we don't have to give her a directive where to get money. And even if we did, it wouldn't be effective. She has that power to move money and move it back. But that's, I appreciate asking, but that can be done in the, if we decide that's, we should let her do that. Thank you.
I am going to briefly just read the initial question that was sent to UCCI back on August 11th. I'll be as brief as I can. And this is from Administrator Newcomer. The question has been brought forth of if the county is statutorily mandated to pay bills incurred by the nursing home, as the county is not statutorily mandated to have one. It is our assumption that since it is an entity of the county, that unless that tie is broken, we are obligated. I'm not altogether sure what that means, unless the tie is broken, but regardless, the response that we received on February 14th, this is from Connie Golenbeck of UCCI. She writes, in response to Ms. Anthony's recent inquiry on the status of the previously submitted legal question found below, please see the response from UCCI, too many C's, legal counsel, who apologizes as he had thought the inquiry had already been addressed. I'll just read this. The question, in its basic form, was whether the county is statutorily mandated to pay bills incurred by the nursing home, as the county is not statutorily mandated to have one. We asked for more information, and the county confirmed that 1, the nursing home is not operated through the Department of Public Health. 2, it is owned and operated by the county. 3, it is insured by the county for all matters, and its employees at the nursing home are paid by the county, wages and benefits. Pursuant to 55 ILCS 5/51005, the county is authorized to erect or otherwise provide suitable buildings for and maintain a county nursing home. Additional statutes related to regulation and operation of county nursing homes may be found in Division 5-21 of the county's code. Specifically, 55 ILCS 5/521-001 provides that the county board has the power to make appropriations from the county treasurer for the purchase of land and the erection of buildings of the home, and to defray the expenses necessary for the care and maintenance of the home, and for providing maintenance, personal care, and nursing services for patients therein. In reviewing these provisions, we did not identify any express statutory provision mandating the county pay costs incurred by the nursing home. However, based upon the statutory provisions identified and the additional information provided by the inquiring county, it seems clear the nursing home was established by and continues to be maintained and operated subject to the control of the county. Moreover, the county is specifically authorized to make such payments related to the nursing home from the county treasurer. In other words, it would appear to be the obligation of the county to cover the nursing home costs, no different from any other department of the county. In the case of such county departments controlled and regulated by the county board, the county is authorized and obligated to pay bills that the respective department incurs. If the county were to properly sell or transfer the nursing home to some other party, there may be the possibility of transferring related obligations. However, that appears to be outside the scope of the current inquiry. And again, the gist of it is, if any department within the county incurs debt, ultimately Stephenson County is responsible for that debt, whether the claims are approved or not. Any other discussion? Mr. Jogerst.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to two quick points, and I'll get going here. But I think the balance question was very pertinent to paying the bills. So I think that, but I got to ask about this tax anticipation loan, because I think we already did that for 2023. Most of it's, did we not forward money to the nursing home out of 2023?
I don't want to speak for Mr. Newton, but I don't believe that he was referring to the advance on the 2022 levy that's payable in 2023.
Okay, so
but I could be wrong. I'm not going to speak for Mr. Newton.
That's not what okay. Okay. The third thing is, may I make an amendment to include these two nursing bills in this amount?
I think you can make a motion to amend anything you want.
I would like to do that. Make a motion to amend the current amount and to include these two nursing home
Okay.
bills.
Do you mind if I read what they are?
Sure.
And maybe include that in your amendment?
Yep.
Ready? All right. So the first invoice is dated November 20th of 2022 for Nurse Wright in the total amount of $48,400.03. Second invoice is from December 22nd, 2022, and the amount is $38,416.28. And if my math is correct, the total of those two claims is $86,816.31.
That's just my math.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
By Mr. Hadley. Discussion on the amendment. I have a question regarding, I guess, the amendment. Since it's not specified, is it as funds become available, and that gives the authority of
funds become available.
treasurer and working in council with TCM to decide the order?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Diddens, and this is on the amendment only.
Yep, it is. I'm just wondering, these two invoices, since they were from, I think, November and December, did we not get these then? Or how did these get overlooked? I mean, were they stashed in a drawer somewhere? Or did we never get them until 2 o'clock this afternoon?
My understanding is that they've not been through the oversight committee or the county board. Beyond that, if we'd like to hear from Denise at TCM, I'm sure she could give maybe a little clarity to it, if she's willing.
I think just for some oversight and accountability, it'd be nice to know why we haven't had these claims yet.
Mrs. Norman, would you mind coming up, please?
Isn't that off the subject that I was asking?
Well, now we.
This is on the amendment to pay these bills.
Okay. May I ask what the total would be that we'd be approving then with these bills?
Okay, I'll figure that up and tell you after Mrs. Norman is done. Go ahead, please.
Sure. We are in the process of, we've lost our accounting AP person at the center and payroll. So we're in the process of going through all of our accounts payable, every vendor, contacting them, finding out where we're at with the invoices. So we have come across several vendors that invoices were
I don't know. I can't speak to what happened. I don't have access to records to know if they were emailed or mailed. All I know is that they are not in the system, and we're working hard to make sure that they are, and that we have a process to cross-check that as we move into 2023. So there is some cleanup with past vendors, so.
Anything else, Mr. Diddens?
That's it, thank you.
Anything else from Mrs. Norman while she's up here?
Oh, that's not fair.
You're here. You might as well say. All right, thank you, Mrs. Norman. Mr. Hart, the grand total with the amendment would be $540,188.94. $540,188.94. That includes the amendment and the current claims. Thank you. You're welcome. Ms. Anthony.
And this is just more of a point of clarification. I'm curious why Mr. Helms, you as the county board chairman, is answering questions up there as opposed to the nursing home chair.
Questions were directed to me. If you don't want me to answer, just tell me. I guess if anyone has questions, be more specific. We'd like to have answer them. People are looking at me when they're talking. Any other discussion on the amendment? Just take a roll call vote on the amendment only, please.
Larry Jokers.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Mark Diddens.
Aye.
Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newman.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kirk O'Clean.
Aye.
Adam Matero.
Aye.
14A.
Okay, so the amendment passes. Is there any other discussion on the primary motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll on the motion. The original motion. As amended, sorry.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Mark Diddens.
Aye.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newman.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kirk O'Clean.
Aye.
Adam Matero.
Aye.
Larry Jokers.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Ten A, 4 nay.
Okay, that passes. Mrs. Baker, do you have anything out of your committee? Any other information?
Yep, so we're still on outbreak. We currently have 7 residents with COVID and 11 staff members. Census today is 55 in-house, 1 in the hospital. And I would just like to thank Shannon and the current staff for their hard work and dedication during this time with the outbreak.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to Public Works, Mr. Diddens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 resolutions. The first is HD 2302. This is to purchase a 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup truck, regular cab, and I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Matero. Is there any discussion on this?
Can I speak to it?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the second pickup truck. We approved one last month. For this truck, we had asked them to hold over for 30 days so we could check on the state purchasing program. And we found out there really is just, there used to be a viable program, but there is no more, really no viable state program. But for example, we bought a similar truck 10 years ago, I think it was, for 25 grand. This one today is costing us 55 grand. So at least we did our due diligence to check to see if we could get one through the state program. We cannot, so we're here tonight to approve this truck.
Mrs. DeMeester.
Was this in the budget?
Yes.
Anything else, Mrs. DeMeester? All right. Any other discussion?
Well, I guess there is another item that goes along with this. We were going to trade an old pickup truck But as it turns out, one of our employees wants to buy it. We were going to trade it in for $6,500, and as it turns out, one of our employees was willing to buy it for a greater amount, significantly greater amount. And I guess we just have no mechanism yet to sell a vehicle, an old vehicle, to the general public, because I don't think we've ever done it before, at least not in the last 10 years that I know of. So we're checking on the process. We've been working with the state's attorney and the chairman, and we're working on the mechanism, but to my knowledge, we don't have the answer yet. So we just have a pending old truck that we want to sell to the public, unless there's something that you guys know that I don't know yet.
Well, I think the department needs to declare it as surplus property first.
Okay, so we would do that in committee? Okay.
I don't know if the state's attorney has anything to add, but once it's declared surplus property, I believe that the county puts it out for bid, but I'll defer to the state's attorney.
Yeah, I've been working with the highway department. It's going to be some manner of allowing the bid on it, whether it's an auction or a sealed bid. I think it's important that it be a fair process, that the public have, kind of the equal opportunity, and to bid on it if they'd like, and, we're just working through that. I'm confident that we'll come to a resolution, like I say, whether it's the sealed bid or whether it's some sort of auction. I'm sure we'll be able to get that done, and sounds like we can be pretty confident that we'll get more than 6,500 for it.
Okay. Okay, that's it on this item.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Mr. Diddens, do you have a second item?
Yeah, our second resolution is HD 2305 for Heritage Research Group Agreement for McConnell Road and Cedarville Road. This is to approve basically ordering soil boring samples for Cedarville Road and McConnell Road for the big project that we got coming up. These samples can be used not only for this project, but kind of as a mapping, as we do soil boring throughout the whole county. We can keep these long-term and kind of map what is happening deep down in the ground underneath all of our roads. So these are two different samples that we're ordering. One is costing $3,750 and the other is $4,975. So I move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Jokerst, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else out of your committee, Mr. Diddens?
Just two more quick items. The highway department is looking to hire an additional regular maintenance worker. So we're going to be adding a position basically, but we worked this through the state's attorney as well. And we don't have to bring this, we didn't have to bring this to the board. They have money in the budget to hire another worker. And we're just using the same job description as all the other regular maintenance workers. So we're adding another body, but we're not creating a new position. But just so everybody's aware of that. And if there's anybody out there that wants a job, we're hiring. And also, we just got a letter of resignation from our assistant maintenance supervisor. So we are looking also to fill that position. We are going to post a job, and we will hire from within if we can. And if we can't, we'll hire off the street. But either way, we have a couple of positions to fill in the highway department.
Sounds good, thank you. Yep. All right. We'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The first item is an approval of resolution for appellate prosecutor. Who's presenting this?
I can.
How about the state's attorney? Mr. Bush, I'm sorry, did you have something?
No, I was.
Okay.
I'm gonna give him the floor.
Okay.
This isn't an overly complicated thing. We employ the services of the appellate prosecutor every year. They handle all of our appeals for us, which is a tremendous advantage. They also answer questions for us regarding legal issues, particularly when we're kind of in the heat of battle in trials. We can give them a call and they'll do some extra research for us. They're primarily funded by the state of Illinois, but if we want to use their service, we got to kick in a little as well. Looks like this year they're looking for $17,000. It represents a fine bargain to the county, and I would recommend is approval, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Can I make a motion to approve?
All right, Mr. Bush made the motion, Mr. Diddens made the second. Is there any discussion on this?
One quick question.
Go ahead, Mr. Diddens.
How come the price came down?
Well, you know, I'm not entirely sure that that this isn't a typographical error in the motion they sent us to pass.
Yeah.
But last year it came down, it was like COVID relief. They came down from 18 to 17. This year they sent us a bill for 17, so you don't say anything, I don't say anything, but it's $17,000 if you approve it.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the presentation by Transitional Care Management. Mr. Filippo, come on down.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to say a few words up here. Promise we won't filibuster, be here till morning. We'll make this reasonably timed out so that you'll actually invite us back to do other presentations. So I want to start out with just a higher level view of when Transitional Care Management and the county and Stephenson Nursing Center came together. It was around late March, early April of 2022. We had offered to do a few things for the county, a business review, which would come back with ideas on selling the facility or keeping the facility or closing the facility. We charged $10 for that. It's better bargain than the $17,000 we just heard of, I think. We recruited an administrator. Actually did that fairly quickly. We did a clinical review of the entire building to find out strengths and opportunities of the building. And we did an analysis. There was an outstanding amount, give or take about $420,000 that was due to HFS due to an audit that went back to 2012. So starting with that analysis, we talked to the state. With our many years of experience, we know what the state HFS can do, what they have to do, what they don't have to do. And so, with some back and forth talking with the state, we're able to lower that audit fine or dollar amount due from $420,000 down to about $120,000. So that's a $300,000 savings for the county. Whether the building stayed, went, whatever, either way, that was a $300,000 savings. So the questions, came up, do you close the building, do you sell it, do you keep it? And the original thought processes that we came up with was that when talking about closing the building is a valuable asset. There's a lot of land, there's a solar field on it, there's a building that could be repurposed for something else. So we're really recommending that you close it, because you might lose a lot of value, you might be able to get more money for it if you were to actually sell it. I believe that the building had offers on it maybe the year prior, somewhere in the $1.5 million range. How much?
I think it was $3 million the first time, and $1.5 million or something.
And I think it kept coming down with the due diligence that was done.
I don't think we ever got offered.
We never got through.
Yeah, I think the ending bid was somewhere in the $1.25 million range. And so we felt that it was probably below market, to get a price like that. Do you sell the building? Whenever you sell anything, you want to sell it at the perfect time, Many people have gone down by trying to pick that perfect timing, I understand that, but we felt that if a sale was going to happen, that there were things that could be done internally to really get it prepped for a sale, so it would look more attractive to another potential buyer. And you keep running the building. You know, we felt that there were a lot of things that could be done to either lower expenses, raise income, and that the building could come out of the tailspin that it was in. And I wanna believe that in the whole history of the building, that we really came in as it was cratering out. You know, we didn't come in at a high level, we came in at a very low level of cash just bleeding at that point. And there were reasons for that. Again, we don't have to go into that right now. But the next page of this presentation just talks about challenges of the business in general. This page, there's actually 12, probably more, but 12 major regulatory oversight companies or divisions that oversee a skilled nursing facility. So it is juggling a lot of rules and regulations, you know, as you saw some of that happening through COVID, when we probably had to change the policies every other week based on what the CDC said or public health. So it's a tough business, you know, because you do have a lot of we caught, this was in October of 2022, an incorrectly filed cost report. Cost report is everything when it comes to a county-owned, not-for-profit facility, because your reimbursement really is driven off this cost report. And when we received the new rate for Stephenson County Nursing Home on effective October 1st of 2022, it actually went down $37 from the year before. It was an absolute mathematical impossibility. And so, you know, we spent several days just going over everything, and honestly, there was one mistake, but it was an absolute, you know, critical mistake. All the expenses were exactly where they should be, but the income was where it should be, but the actual census was off by 100%. There's 87 residents on an average daily basis is what was reported, when in fact the building had 43 as an average. And this is during 2021. So we caught that error. We talked to Whipley, who was the company that did the cost report. They're out of Wisconsin. And we corrected, with their help, in conjunction with them, we corrected the cost report. We sent it down to HFS in Springfield. And they accepted it on October 12th. They approved it on October 21st, despite being 3 months past the appeal date for cost reports. So, being a not-for-profit county-owned nursing home really pulls its own weight. You made our job easier, because you never could have gotten that done with a private-owned facility, ever. They would have made that facility suck up that lower rate for an entire year. And that it comes to about $2.7 million annually this year that the facility will get, that it wouldn't have gotten had they not accepted the correction. They retroed the date back to October 1st. We're still collecting some of that old money because they started paying us at the old rate, and now they're paying us under the new rate. So that was a very material catch. Otherwise, I think we'd be having a different conversation today altogether. There was a billing glitch in the software, and not sure how many years it's been there, but the software in the electronic health records, again, the formula wasn't correct, and without going into the details of it, it's been costing the facility about $1,000 a month, probably since 2012. But it's hard to say because we weren't around in 2012, but that's when the software started, and we just assumed the formula was wrong the whole time. A few value-added services. So we talked about the cost report, and that's that retro pay, that we've collected most of that at this point. The gain of $1,000 a month, the updated cost report, and that HFS audit that we talked about. We truly, TCM, we truly look at this relationship, although sometimes it has some friction. Oh, so make sure you're still there. We truly love this facility, and we really honor this as a partnership. Until you tell us to go away, we're in it 100%. We very lenient on our payments. Whenever you can pay them, you pay them. And the fees the dollars that we collected prior to us coming in on June 1st, we didn't charge anything on that. So it's probably about $1 million, 5%, so it's about $50,000 that we didn't charge, never planned to charge. I think Mr. Helms pressed us on that during our interview. So as part of the 2023 strategic plan, there's a few things that, between Shannon Harris, the administrator, and ourselves, and what we've heard in this room and the nursing home community boardroom, we want to meet or exceed the 2023 budget, and it does show that budget does show slight profit. So our goal is absolutely not to lose money in this building. Collections are very key. Without collections, you can't make money in this business. We have a big continuing education and training program that really helps the employees of the facility and staying up with the current rules and regulations, which are ever changing. We would like to grow the skilled census and to increase the revenue. I have a couple of speed bumps to get past, I think, for that to happen. We'd love to upgrade some of the vendor services and pricing. We have changed some of the pricing already for the better. We've identified other areas that we might have to go through the either RFP process or contract process that we'll be bringing, to the nursing home committee in the near future. And we will put together a comprehensive capital assessment of the building with the pricing behind that. So this next page is, I think, very important for everyone on this committee to know. This is a financial statement snapshot. And what you're looking at here, if you're looking at the page, this is on an accrual basis. And so basically, in order to look at this through the correct lens, you've got to wipe away everything from the past. Pretend today is day one, just for 5 minutes, I ask. Today is day one, and there are no sins of the past. So today, this isn't we will be anymore, we are collecting and billing for about $620,000 every month. We actually, January's numbers came in at $624,000. Actual bills, based on a 57 census, not pie in the sky, 80, 90, 100 census. This is today's numbers. The expenses, and there might be a little wiggle room here. The treasurer may have a tweak here or there, but the expenses, we've got payroll at $90,000 rather than 88, I think it's been coming in. But the expenses come out to about $510,000 a month. When we first started coming to the meetings, I think the claims plus some of the other items that come in from the county were $450,000, and so those expenses are up to $510,000 now. There's been increases in payroll, cost of living, and things like that. But today, if you can wipe away the past and just look at what's happening today, that building is making $109,000 a month. And you're not seeing it because of the sins of the past. But if we can stay in the present for a minute, there's a line item, two line items, HFS audits and HFS bed taxes that equal a little over $27,000. Those are the some payment plans that we have with HFS. Those payments stop after April. So that means starting May 1st, we're looking at like $136,000 a month. So the money will come. The building is profitable today on an accrual basis. You keep hearing me say that, but I wanted to at least kind of give you a visual today of what I'm actually talking about when I say that. And last meeting, we were talking about bills. I think we were paid through October, and we said that by the next board meeting, we should have all the bills paid through December. And I think that's actually a true statement. We could, if we ignored the payroll, the next payroll. We're very close to that. Money continues to come in now on a regular basis, and it is just a matter of timing and catch up. So, when we get to, I'll wait to when we get to 2 pages from now, and we start talking about closing, selling, or keeping, I want you to keep that in mind. Who closes a business that's making $109,000 or $136,000 a month? I don't know anyone who's closed a business who's done that. Do you sell a business like that? If you can get top dollar for it, maybe, but selling it for $1 million or $1.5 million when it's making $109,000 or $136,000 a month, you want to think about that a little bit longer. And do you keep it? And again, there's a lot of reasons to keep it. I'm not going to be up here preaching and all that. That's for everyone else to discuss at this point. I don't want to get into that level of deep thought tonight. But I do hear the term liability a lot, not just with the nursing home here, amongst the board, amongst the prior board, whatever the topic may be. Maybe a zoning issue had nothing to do with the nursing home. That's too much liability, or that's too much liability. But I've also heard that it's a reason to close the nursing homes because there's too much liability. So I only have the knowledge of the nursing home business. I've never run a jail. I've never run a sheriff's office. I've never run highways and departments and laying concrete and building bridges. But it seems to me like there's a heck of a lot of liability in running a jail. There's a heck of a lot of liability in all those other areas. But I do know, in looking at your insurance policies for the nursing home, you're very well covered from a liability aspect. Your deductible is very reasonable. And I'm going to circle back to something I've said 100 times before in the past. You get reimbursed for your expenses. There's about a 9-month lag, but if for some reason your liability insurance would skyrocket one year, you would get reimbursed for it. It would be that 9-month lag. But when you're making $109,000 or $136,000 a month, you can afford that 9-month lag. So there's liability in everything. Our drive home tonight's going to be a big liability. So again, just wanted to kind of plant that seed that there's I'm not saying there isn't liability in the nursing home, but you certainly are well covered. Like I said, from your policies, you've done a great job in having great coverage over the years. I have another sheet here that it shows the 4 closest competitors to Stephenson Nursing Center. You've got Ascension, St. Joe's Village, Manor Court, and Pearl Pavilion. Those are the true competitors right in the area. And then you've got Lena Living Center, which is about 12 miles away, give or take. What we have here, just some brief statistics, because I know it's been brought up before. If for some reason you do vote to close the building, that every resident of Stephenson County Nursing Center will be placed, and there shouldn't be a problem. There's enough beds around. So I'd like to go through these one by one, and most of this is fact and a little opinion in here. So when you talk to someone from Ascension Village, they don't want to. They're running a business, so they're not going to necessarily tell you everything. They're not going to say, "Hey, we'll take every Medicaid patient that you send us," but they don't want to say that they're not going to take any either. So, in reading between the lines, between Ascension Village, which is a not-for-profit, and Manor Court, which is a not-for-profit, They have a census of 92 out of 124 and 96 out of 117. So that's 29, 53 open beds that those two buildings have. We believe that they're not going to be as generous as some people may think in taking people that are straight Medicaid. Stephenson Nursing Center actually gets Medicaid referrals from those buildings. It's kind of an indicator. And Pearl Pavilion has a lot of open beds, and they will take every resident that we send them. But if you look, they actually have a 1-star in their staffing. And if that's the key number, when you're looking at any nursing home, if a family member ever asks you, if you know any good places in Oregon, that's the stat you want them to go to. It's on the internet. The staffing stars tell you it's between 1 and 5. The staffing stars tell you how they're staffed and how many hours that they're put in. And if you can find a 3, 4, 5 staffing star, you're in the ballgame. Find a 1 or 2, you just want to steer clear, whether they're for profit or not for profit. So Pearl Pavilion, again, it would be a downgrade to send people from Stephenson County Nursing Center to Pearl Pavilion. One person sent there would be a downgrade. So if you ever do vote to close it, you may want to look at the competition and where you'd be sending those residents. You might not be doing them much justice. Lena is kind of middle of the road, but they're 12 miles away. That's a hike for some people. So I did want to point that out tonight also. The stats at the bottom, if you notice, I hand wrote a few things in because they were updated numbers just today, but I didn't change the bottom census percentage. But the census percentage is about 70% filled beds in this area. But like I said, I'm not sure how many of them are Medicaid eligible except for Pearl and Lena. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Flippo.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Bush, seconded by Mr. Copeland. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you everyone for coming out. Please drive safe.
Cut us all.